And we begin tonight with this historic high-stakes summit between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Trump going into this summit saying he wanted a ceasefire from Putin in this war in Ukraine, and he wanted it today, coming out of this summit. Moments ago, both leaders speaking, President Trump saying there's no deal until there's a deal, saying there were many points agreed on, but he said, I would say a couple of big ones that we haven't quite got there, but we've made some headway, the president said, but no declaration of any kind of ceasefire. President Trump inviting Putin to Anchorage, Alaska, to Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson after meeting for more than 2.5 hours, the two coming before cameras just moments ago. Putin calling the conversations with President Trump trustworthy, using the word agreement, but Putin offering no details about any kind of agreement reached, neither of them saying what they had agreed to. President Trump saying, I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call the various people I think are appropriate. And of course, I will call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. Ultimately, President Trump said, it's up to them. Putin getting a red carpet welcome. President Trump waiting for him to arrive there in Alaska, extending a handshake, a warm welcome, ending the isolation Putin has faced from the U.S. and the West since he invaded Ukraine 3.5 years ago. The two standing for photos, Alaska's mountains there in the distance, flanked by U.S. F-22 Raptors, B-2 bombers flying overhead, symbols, of course, of American power. The two of them then getting into President Trump's motorcade, the presidential limousine known as the Beast. Putin's smile seen in that window as they drove away to the meeting site for the summit. Then, of course, the meeting, Trump and Putin, each with two senior aides. Trump going into this, of course, hoping to set up a second summit, he said, with Putin and President Zelensky. President Trump saying he would be happy to attend that summit as well. President Zelensky was not invited to this meeting today. President Trump tonight saying he will now call President Zelensky. ABC's chief White House correspondent Barry Bruce leading us off in Anchorage with late reporting tonight.
Tonight, after hours behind closed doors, President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin emerging from their summit.
There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them.
It capped an extraordinary event not seen in more than a decade. Putin touching down on American soil, walking the red carpet as Trump waited to greet him. A hearty handshake, Trump then grasping Putin's arm. As they walked to the stage, Putin looking to the sky as an American B-2 bomber flew overhead, a striking show of force. The warmth between the two leaders on full display, but the task at hand deadly serious.
President, how can the U.S. trust your word?
Putin asked, how can the U.S. trust your word? No answer, just more smiles. Trump escorting Putin to the presidential limo known as the Beast. Putin laughing and waving as they drove off together. Earlier, President Trump laying out today's objective.
I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today. Everyone said it can't be today, but I'm just saying I want the killing to stop. I'm in this to stop the killing.
But overnight, with the summit just hours away, Russia continuing its bombardment of Ukraine. Our Rachel Scott asking the president about Putin's decision to launch those strikes.
We saw that Russia continued its violence into Ukraine last night, launching even more drones. What did you make of that?
I think they're trying to negotiate. Maybe it's just his fabric, his genes, his genetics, but he thinks that makes him, gives him strength in negotiating. I think it hurts him.
For Ukraine's President Zelensky, who was not invited to today's summit, the lead up to the talks offered no indication Moscow is preparing to end this war. On the day of the negotiations, they also kill people, he added, and that says a lot.
Mr. Putin, will you agree to a ceasefire? Mr. Putin, will you commit to not killing any more civilians?
That ceasefire top of mind for President Trump as he went behind closed doors with Putin. Joining him, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff, who helped arrange this summit. Putin accompanied by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his top foreign advisor Yuri Ushakov. Trump's goal today, a second meeting with Putin and Zelensky. And he says what comes next is up to those two countries, including what Trump has called swapping of territories.
I've got to let Ukraine make that decision, and I think they'll make a proper decision. But I'm not here to negotiate for Ukraine. I'm here to get them at a table.
Putin's goal to broaden today's talks to cover nuclear weapons and economic cooperation with the United States.
I expect that today's agreements will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the U.S.
The question tonight, when will this war come to an end? David, a lot of questions remain here tonight. The president just said progress was made, but we still don't know exactly what was agreed to. Going into this, Trump said he wanted a ceasefire or there would be severe economic consequences. But in their remarks just now, neither Trump nor Putin even uttered the word ceasefire. And they didn't mention any future meeting with President Zelensky either. David.
And in fact, President Trump saying there's no deal until there's a deal, which underscored it all. Mary Bruce leading us off. Thank you for the excellent coverage all afternoon, Mary.